quite a while more than they did. And so he was like, oh my God, this is Terry. You're civilization, but you're welcome. And all the white people there hated each other. They were different tribes. They were Irish, Scottish, fought each other in various wars. There were like 100 different wars. They weren't like friends, French. So they didn't look at each other and say, we were white. They looked at each other and said, you're German and you're Bavarian, and they were tribal just like everybody else. But when all of these various Europeans came here and decided, when the Catholic Church did an edict in 1492, saying they had launched the Age of Exploration, and they said, go out and bring back gold to Rome. And any people you find there, you can enslave them or kill them if they will not convert. You are free to roam the earth and own whatever you find. And that launches this age of exploration that ends up creating chattel slavery. They see these people, they say, we're going to enslave you, we're going to turn you into our eternal servants. And when they started to bring that system to this country, they needed a reason to continue it, but also to keep the black servants and the white servants from teaming up, because they outnumbered them. And so this idea of whiteness was just a trick invented to keep white servants from siding with black servants. They said, well, here's the difference. And they're like, well, we both have no shoes. We're both hungry. Why are we working 7 days a week? We're miserable. And they said, well, yeah, but you're different from them. They're like, well, how? We're both living horribly. They said, well, you're white. So you're like us. Look at our skin. We're the same. You may have nothing. I'm going to give you nothing. You're going to continue to be poor. But you're not them. They're black. You're white. And so this sort of catch-all of black and white has been, to me, the most powerful invention in history, because it aligns poor white people with rich white people against poor black people, poor brown people. But then you get into colonialism, where you start to say, we don't want ever again that blacks in America look at Haiti and go, hey, maybe we should do what they're doing. And they were. I mean, black people were uprising in the what's called the United States, like every week, there was another uprising. But in Haiti, theirs actually completely succeeded, which terrified what we were now white people. And they're like, we can never let them look at those Caribbean blacks as brothers, even though they're literally our cousins. Everyone in New Orleans is basically Haitian, right? But they don't want you to think that way. So this whole idea of dividing Caribbean blacks and American blacks is also quite deliberate. My parents are Caribbean. When they came here in the 60s, my godmother, who was my mother's best friend, they were in NYU together, she worked at Bonwit Teller, which is now Trump Tower. It was a beautiful department store called Bonwit Teller, very big scale. And black people weren't allowed to work in the front. Black people could only work in the back and stop people. But my godmother, who was Jamaican, was allowed to work in the front. She got the white gloves, she could work behind the cashier desk. She's the only black person there. But why? She has an accent. So she's black, but she's not our black. Right behind her back, she's still the N-word, but we're gonna raise her status a little bit above. My godmother, I should say my mom was Dr. K, my godmother was Malcolm X, and my mother was Guyanese, because they're polite, but Jamaicans, they have no behavior. Jamaicans are just completely misbehaved. So my mother was trying to negotiate with the white teachers who were discriminating against not just them, but against the black American students who felt completely disempowered in those NYU classrooms. So my mother would be like, that's not right. And my godmother would start with the bomba. And she would lose it and just act crazy. Because she had privilege as a foreign black person. And so I think some of it has been artificially created by white people who never want. It's the reason blacks and Latinos can get along. If you do the one drop rule, every Latino is black. Now the whole of Latin America are black by the one drop rule. But they teach them, when you're light and you speak Spanish, so you're not black. And the Dominicans will say, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. And you're like, darker than me, you're black, So these phrases are artificial. But then I have to say, as a Caribbean American person, a lot of us don't help ourselves. Because, my mother, when she came here as a black woman, we ended up in Denver, Colorado. There were 4 African families because you're African American. This is very clear. My family was like, you guys are African American, you're from here. So I'm culturally African American, and my mother was very, she had an accent until the day she died. But she never considered me to be Caribbean. And so she raised us with a deep reverence for African Americans and a deep respect for what African Americans survived and built and created. And I sometimes get on my Caribbean people, who don't respect enough the fact that African Americans built the most powerful culture.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
It's so powerful that when white people want to insult black people, they use the word woke, which black people made up. When they want to ban our history, they have to borrow critical race theory, which black people made up.
Right.
But black culture is so powerful, it's even used in the language of white supremacy. That's like a powerful culture. And black people invented rock and roll and country music, and it's so powerful that white people are like, we need to ban you from that because we don't even want to compete with Beyonce. Kick her out of the country. Because if she's in country, well, dagnabbit, she's gonna win all the awards. We have tennis, let the black girls. What are we doing? Why did we let the Williams sisters play? And now Coco Jones wants to be, So black Americans are like freaking, to me, y'all are like the Wakanda of black people. So I was raised with it, and I just think that we need more respect due given by Caribbean Americans. And also, I think you have to recognize that what Caribbean Americans dealt with was a different kind of slavery. They would just use them till they died. So they didn't have a chance to become generational. They were just dead. They would work them to death. They didn't breed them like cattle. There wasn't chattel slavery. It was vicious slavery. My godmother's people escaped into the hills, the Maroons. It was so vicious. They would escape in the hills. And the white people were too scared to go in the hills to get them. So it's very different forms of enslavement. It's all horrible. But we need to respect each other's culture and know that we are on the same side. And I would say this one last thing, I know I'm very long-winded. White folks, y'all ain't had it great either. And they need to come to a recognition that when black people talk about black history and the greatness of black people, that's something that they too should look to for inspiration, to get out of the hole they're in from.